Welcome everybody to Ballers and Briefs for tonight, September the 23rd, Week 3 Outlook. We're man down tonight. Our man Brad is out having a good time tonight, so shout out to Brad. He'll be back when we run it back on Wednesday. So
yes, sir.
we have good stuff going out for you tonight, especially lots of injuries, lots of DFS action. So let's just get straight to it.
I think I will start with a lot of questions we keep getting are related to the DFS side. I think people are not watching all the videos, not watching the past videos or not, but I'll redo it anyways. And let's talk about the difference between cash and GPP lineups. So with that said, when you hear us say we prefer somebody for cash or we prefer somebody for GPP, the main difference is GPP is the guaranteed prize pools. It's the ones that pay a lot of money, but they also have they're also the ones with like 10,000 plus entries in it. That's your milli maker, your 100K guarantee. They get a lot of people in them. So we talk about getting different for those because you want to have different exposures to like random players that are low owned in order to take down those kind of tournaments, because you can't just favor the high owned, what we call chalk players, to win those tournaments. It's not going to happen. And then a cash tournament is double ups, head to heads, those type of tournaments. And you can find those in DraftKings or FanDuel just by filtering to double ups or head to heads. And those are the ones you want to have a lot of chalky players and the high owned players, because you're only looking to beat out half the crowd to double your money. And that's easier to do with chalk lineups. Plus, if a chalk player fails, he's more likely that he's high owned and everybody, takes that same L. Like if Derrick Henry's 80% owned and you have him and he doesn't have a good game, it doesn't hurt your lineup because he's 80% owned. Whereas if you had him in a GPP, absolutely you can count yourself out. You're not going to win first place in that. You probably won't even come in the money in that with one player doing bad. That's the main difference between GPP and cash. Now there's strategy for both of those. You can do something I like to do. If I enter like 50 or $100 in GPP tournaments, I also like to enter 50 or $100 in my cash tournaments. So that way I'm like protecting my money. I'm backing up my money. I only got to beat half the crowd with this $50 to double up. And with the other money, in GPP, I'm taking risk. Like you'll hear us talk about taking a punt on somebody that's low owned, and you're probably like, ew, why would somebody play that person? Well, we're taking risk. We're trying to win the whole thing. And we have experience in this, and we've seen it before, where the winning lineups that like win the $1 million on Sunday, they always have like a third string tight end in there, or like a third string running back, or just like the third string wide receiver gets the touchdowns instead of your Tyreek Hill, for example. Like it's always some weird pump play. So we try to find those areas to exploit, and which player from one of those teams could be that person to get the job done.
That's exactly right. So for someone that's just coming straight off the street in daily fantasy, for the questions like Bill just said, the questions that we've been asking is these words that we're using, throwing around quite often, like showdown. What's a showdown mean? So showdown, for instance, is when you have one single game with two teams, and they're going like, so for instance, for tomorrow, you could play a showdown in the 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock window, Tennessee versus Cleveland. That's a showdown. You're only going to be able to pick players from Cleveland and Tennessee. So that's basically what we do on Thursday night. You'll play a Sunday night showdown and a Monday night showdown. But you can run them all through the whole day on Sunday, individually picking games. We don't tend to favor those type because you're so many other games going on, and we're in multiple cash lineups and GPP lineups. But if you are running a cash or a GPP in a showdown, don't feel like you're alone. We still can give you some good insight for how to play a showdown on a Sunday slate, but we just tend to kind of not play those individually. And so what comes along with a showdown is you'll hear us talk about captain and flex for DraftKings and MVP and flex for FanDuel. So captain is it is going to be your highest cost player. So, and they get a perk of 1.5 the times of points that are scored. So for every 1 point they score, it's actually 1.5 points. So they score 10. Let's say you have a wide receiver who gets 5 catches for so many yards, or 10 catches. Let's just say that he gets 10 catches and no yards, right? So it's 10 catches. He has 10 straight points. Multiply that 1.5, so he's got 15 points. Or if you start with a defense in the captain slot, that's a automatic 15 from the jump. So, and then the flex are you fill in DraftKings 5 extra players afterwards, and then in FanDuel it's 4 players. It's a 5-player showdown as opposed to a 6-player showdown in DraftKings.
Correct. And like Cody said, we only play those on showdown times, like Thursday night football, Sunday night football, and Monday night football. We're not touching showdown tournaments on a main slate. For the most part, we're playing main slate, and then sometimes the afternoon only slate, and then showdowns. We're not doing the contests that run from Thursday to Monday, include all those games. We're not running contests that start with the Sunday 1 o'clock games and include the Monday game. We're doing the Sunday 1 o'clock games that include the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock games. That's your main slate. And then we're doing the afternoon only slate, which is just the 4 o'clock and the 4:25 games. And then at night, showdown. And then Monday night, showdown. Those are all separate. That's the best way to find, for one, the better tournaments, right? The Millie Maker that we talk about all the time pays $1 million at first. That's a main slate only tournament. And then for the afternoon only, there's no Millie Maker, but there's probably some good payout tournaments if you want to get in there. But the showdowns also have Millie Makers sometimes, or we call them Millie Makers. Sometimes they're not Millie Makers, but sometimes they'll pay like $200,000 the first place,
$500,000 the first. It's usually, they're guaranteed. When we say Millie Makers, it's guaranteed $1 million is going to be $1 million or more is going to be paid out in prize money. Rather, that's $1 million guaranteed to first, or $1 million guaranteed across the board to all the payout positions. Now, I do like to go a little bit against the grain sometimes when it comes to Phil. I do dabble a little bit in showdowns in the 1 o'clock window, just for the 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock window, just for the simple fact of I like to play some cash showdowns, which, because again, where we talk about cash, it's the chalk player. So it's not really a very much intuitive research. You just really know that, okay, so I played last week, I played a Texans versus Colts 1 o'clock showdown and just went heavy chalk, like heavy CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson combo, and it got as many of the number ones as I possibly could get in there, and cashed double my money just because I knew intuitively who was going to play in that game, and it didn't have to do a whole lot of research. But we don't tend to do it often. But like I said, if you guys are in it and it's something that you want to do, feel free to ask us, and we'll tell you, say, hey, that's a chalky player. Their ownership projection is through the roof. Get them in your cash lineup if you're using them for a showdown at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whatever. But like I said, we don't tend to play in those at all unless it's just for fun, kind of.
Correct. And some people ask me, and this is a general question, what tournaments I like to play in, or what tournaments are actually the GPPs I play in, or what tournaments are the cash tournaments I play in. And I have a preference, so it's a good question. When it comes down to the cash tournaments, I only like to play in double ups that are single entry. I will not play in double ups that allow people to put more than one entry in the tournament because I've seen I've seen the money get split so much to where you don't even double up, and I don't like that. And then I also for cash like to do 50 heads ups. I do 50 $1 heads ups, and I make it so that way my opponent cannot be the same in any tournament. So only one person can play against me once in all my head to heads. I do that because the pros can't play in $5 or below tournaments, so they can't be in those $1 heads ups. And two, I find it easier to beat people like that. It's kind of like I'm a shark and they're a little fish. A lot of people playing the $1 heads ups might be on their last dollar, or they're probably people that only got like $5 or $10 in their account and they're trying to put a dollar here and there and spread themselves thin, and they don't really know this information that we're telling y'all and teaching y'all. So it's a lot of times an easy win. And that's a good way to double up your money if you want to start focusing on those. For GPP,
something I was about to say, if that's something that you guys want us to show you, we can get on here on DraftKings and put like a little tutorial together, show you how to do those double ups and those 1v1s, so that you can make sure that you're only getting exposure to one opponent. That is something that it's really easy. It's just click a few buttons, and each way we can show you either via the computer, internet, or on your phone. We can give you a little update. So like if it's just something that you guys want us to show you, let us know, drop us a comment, and let us know that that's something that you'd like to see in the future.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And then back to the GPPs, the tournaments I like to play for like the guaranteed prize pools. I like to keep my money in 20 max entries, and I'll max them out. There's a lot of tournaments, if they don't specify like single entry or 3-player max or 10-player max, that means that one person can put 150 entries into those tournaments. You definitely don't want to be just putting one entry in those, because trust me, there are thousands of people that are max entering those 150 entry tournaments. For example, the Millie Maker is a 150 max entry tournament. Now, I do take a stab at that and throw 1 to like 5 entries in it randomly. I play it as a lotto. I expect to lose. I'm not really getting an advantage on the field by doing that. If anything, I'm hurting myself, but at the same time, can't hit the lottery unless you play it. So I'll do that. But for the most part, I stick to 20 entry maxes. I max them out. I put 20 entries in there. I do it that way. And then my bread and butter is the single entries. Single entry GPP as well, not just single entry cash. So you'll see tournaments that'll say $100 buy-in, 100,000 to first, single entry. It's $100, one entry, and the most anybody can put in there is one entry. Has like 5,000 people in it, so it's not super crazy. It's not 15, 80, 90,000 people in there. It's 5,000 people you got to beat out. It is filled with lots of pros. It's one of the sharkiest tournaments. About $100,000 to first with one lineup, and nobody else can put in a whole bunch of lineups is a good advantage, especially if you know this kind of information. You're tuning in here and you're getting that type of information. You'll be able to keep up in those type of tournaments. And those go all the way down to like $5. You can get $5 single entries that say 100K guaranteed. First place is probably like 15,000. And it's $5. You all day long. There's $12 ones, $27 ones. I think there's a $33 one. I just like single entries because it just stops people from being able to put 150 entries in and getting lucky with one of them and beating me. Single entry, you got to really zone in onto one lineup, give it your all, make it your best. You don't want to be too chalky. You got to be different there as well. Take some stabs with some lower owned players, put it in, and hope that they pop off.
I just got a text question. Someone just asked me, do we play tiers? Now, this is something that's specifically specific to DraftKings. I know Phil doesn't. I dabble in the tiers system. It is so basically in DraftKings, you play, I believe, 6 tiers. And so what happens is it gives you a list of players that you can draft, but it's it's a fixed pool, okay? Each tier level. So you'll have tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, and each one of them have a different obviously price point like we see, and you have to make your lineup fit. So for instance, I play them tiers with a cash lineup because the players that tend to be available in those are 150% cash payout type players. So, for instance, a tier system, it's actually 8 tiers now. I thought it used to be 6, but for instance, a tier 1 grouping for tomorrow is 4 quarterbacks: a Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. So if I'm playing in a tiers for a cash play tomorrow, that's like a Patrick Mahomes against the Chicago defense, or even the Kirk Cousins. I mean, even this is all cash. Like, these dudes are all cash. This tier 1 is straight cash players because this Chargers and Minnesota game is supposed to be a highest scoring game tomorrow. So I'm sure these guys are going to be super owned. But
Kirk Cousins is highest owned right now.
Yes, I assume so. Each one of these tiers, like I said, it's not something that we dabble in a lot. I just play it for fun and see how I can do it. I don't see it something that a lot of people are winning a lot of money in. But if it was down to playing it and needing it for cash, I could see you just doing like a really heavy cash lineup. I don't think I would play it for GPP though, at all.
Yeah, I don't play tiers. It's not that anything's wrong with it. It's just I got my expertise in the GPP and the double ups. I don't need any more extra weirdness going on over here, taking my money.
Kind of what Phil says, the fact of like showdowns, the prizes are just not, the prize pools are just not really up there. So like you can for tomorrow, the highest prize pool is $60K and it's 150 max at $5. So if you're 150 maxing a $5 tournament and you're only expecting to win 60K across the whole, and it's only 20K to first, that's just not, that's just a little bit counterintuitive with the money wise. So I personally would kind of stay away from it unless you're going to use it for cash purposes.
Is there a lot of people tying in that as well, since every tier only has a select amount to choose from? You see a lot of people with the same
I've never seen a whole lot of people tie. It does play more to the way that a FanDuel type does, like a regular FanDuel type lineup. Not saying so much half PPR, but how in FanDuel you're either alone or you're in that middle grouping of tons of people who have pretty much similar lineups to you, if not one or two different players in each tier different. And then what happens even worse in tiers is DraftKings is bad about making this tiers list on Monday night or right as the week ticks over. And there ends up being guys on there that are out for the week, and you have to play who else is in there. So you're not getting different from anyone, like we always say, especially for GPP purposes in these. So that's why I think personally a tiers thing is a strictly cash only type play, and I would play it try to stay in the single entry cash type place for that.
Correct. All right, I guess that breaks down the basis for DraftKings and FanDuel and the tournaments. I guess we can get into the slate for Sunday. Pretty exciting main slate. I'd say there's I think I've made some notes. There's about 5 games that attract me. Have you taken a look at it yet, Cody?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty intrigued. Obviously, earlier, like I said, this Chargers Minnesota game is going to be probably the out of your mind's highest points, because we've seen this Chargers team put up tons of points and they can't win. So that's got to break sometime. So I feel like this is going to be a Justin Herbert kind of coming out party kind of thing. We saw what happened in Minnesota last week, and we've seen what the Chargers have done to teams. They run with the Dolphins, and they run with the other teams that they played with so far, and they just putting tons of points up, and they just can't win the game when it comes down to it. So I feel like this is one of those matchups that is either going to be a fireworks shootout, or we're all going to be so underwhelmed because it's not going to be anything. And then we have a few additions here and there of like Cam Akers throwing into the pot in Minnesota now. Are we still staying on the Alexander Madison train? Those kinds of things. Like, is everybody hip to Jordan Addison now? So it's the kind of weird stuff. But
definitely, I would say you're definitely spot on. That game is coming in far more owned than any other game, which is why I have excitement towards some other games.
Eckler. Everybody's going to be on the Joshua Kelly chalk again, which
they're all over Madison.
Which was the worst thing that we fell into that gap last week, thinking that the Josh Kelly chalk was going to pay out for us, and hell, it didn't pay out. Cash. In a cash play, he was high owned, and luckily that didn't kill us totally, but it hurt us quite a bit because
with that said though, that does bring up an intriguing look at the game, right? Because it's the highest over under by far. It's the highest owned game by far. I mean, Kirk Cousins is coming in at double the second most owned quarterback on the slate. So for me, you can already, if you've watched the podcast in the past, you already know with me, you will see 0 Kirk Cousins as my quarterback in GPP. Definitely cash.
Definitely right? Cash play tomorrow, though, probably.
Earlier I said, play the high ownership in cash, because if they shit the bed, they're high owned. It doesn't matter. I tell you right now, I will have 0 Kirk Cousins in GPP. But Josh Kelly being a letdown to everybody, and the fact that I don't think people know this or not, but you need to run against Minnesota. Minnesota is not a team. I mean, I guess you could pass against them too, but not so much. Minnesota is allowing 25 more yards per game on average than the other teams. And they're only allowing 6 more yards per average on passing than the other teams. So it tells you run against Minnesota, right? Now, picture for a second this high-ass owned game and these high-ass owned players that everybody's going to be all over. How do you get different? Right there. Josh Kelly, because I'm with Cody. Like, dude, shit the bed. He almost screwed my cash lineups and everything. He got saved, I think, by Tyreek Hill or something. But Josh Kelly shit the bed. Not many people are going to be on him. They're not going to want to go back that route. They're literally going to want to go all over the passing in that game. They're going to be, Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen all over, the studs and the catchers, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, as you can already see. And if you want to get different, or if you want to say, I'm going to make a lineup where I don't have those players because I want to get different just in case the game is different, slow, or those people aren't eating like they should, that means that the running backs are, right? That would be Madison or Josh Kelly. Problem is Madison's coming in high owned, so it's like, don't really want him neither. But I'll take Josh Kelly if he's going to be low owned and, a way to get different in that game that should be high scoring. Because what if, like, Keenan Allen catches it half downfield, Mike Williams catches it down to the 3, Josh Kelly runs it in?
We've seen him do that before. We've seen him do that before, and for Austin Eckler being on when Austin Eckler was 100%, we saw Josh Kelly take touchdowns down at the red zone from Eckler. I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, I feel like that game's going to be I imagine that game's probably going to show up in the cash lineup tomorrow for sure, because of ownership projections, and because of Vegas saying, hey, this game's going to be full of touchdowns. So,
to be honest, I probably don't touch it for GPP at all. Yeah. I might not even have Kelly or Madison or anybody from that game in GPP. Doesn't mean I won't change my mind tomorrow if exposures change, like other people start thinking like me and they get off of it, then yeah. But the way it sits now, I won't touch it for GPP.
Yeah. Another game, obviously, that's intriguing tomorrow. To me, and I'm not really sure how the ownership is going to shake down. It's probably the Broncos at the Dolphins. And this kind of can look into our injury report. With no Jalen Waddle tomorrow, I feel like, and no, more than likely, no Salvin Ahmed. I feel like there's probably some good punts in there tomorrow. We have like running back purposes in Miami, depending on how, if Miami gets out and this is a horse race, or this is it, or not, depending on if Sean Payton can play with the Mike McDaniel. I think offensively, yes, it can work, but can Russ play with Miami? That's the question, right? Can Russ play with Miami, or does this defense, with like the defense in Miami, does it just basically put the Broncos to sleep tomorrow? I don't know, but I'm thinking for probably some good punts in there, with that running back room in Miami kind of a little bit in flux. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we know that Mostert's sitting at the top, but is it going to be a Mostert game tomorrow like we've seen before, or is this going to be one of those gimmick games where they bring Eric Ebukama or whatever his name is, or Devin Achane in and take some touches away? So I think that's probably a good one to look at. Maybe also, what games are you thinking about, Phil?
Yeah, that's the one on my list. So strikes me as some potential to get off of the chalk of the Minnesota Chargers game. I think any game that Tua is in, I'm always interested in. He's got high scoring potential. Jalen Waddle, I think, plays a big part in this game with him being out. I think a lot of your amateur rookie DFS players are going to be like, oh shit, I'm going all in on Tyreek Hill, and I think that's a very bad idea. I love Tyreek Hill. He's
been kind of banged up this week too on the injury report. I'm actually looking at it right now, and he was a full go in practice on Friday.
I mean, he's a GOAT, but we've seen him get shut down, and we've seen teams lock him down. I mean, they have to let other areas of the field get exposed to do it.
Pat Surtain Jr. tomorrow, so and Pat Surtain Jr. is actually a pretty good cover corner, especially, and then Justin Simmons over the top in the back end is not a terrible safety either. So
that's exactly where I was going with that. He's going against a solid corner with Pat Surtain. It's number one. Number two, without Waddle on the field, they don't have to worry about anybody else on the other side of the field no more. They just shut down Tyreek Hill and let let Tua tag, try to figure out who his next best receiver is. Could be Braxton Berrios' day.
Berrios or River Craycraft, maybe.
I mean, or it could just be like 20 receptions for Tyreek Hill, but they're all short. Like, we've seen teams let Tyreek Hill catch the ball, but they let him catch it like underneath 5-10 yards. They do not let him get past him downfield. They trap him down there. They don't let him explode.
Oh, no Justin Simmons tomorrow, though. Actually, now that makes me even more that makes me more happy for players that are going to eat in the middle tomorrow, because I just saw that he's out with a hip. So
Durham Smythe and Berrios,
no Frank Clark either. So
you gotta like those opportunities tomorrow. I don't think Mostert does what he did last week. Mostert,
I don't think so either.
Another interesting person is, I think it's Achane, like you mentioned,
David
is coming in because Salvon Ahmed is not going to be in. So there you go. You're going to start a conversation earlier when you're trying to win the Millie Maker. Braxton Berrios would definitely be a good play off of Tyreek Hill in the Millie Maker. Shane would definitely be a good play off of Mostert in the Millie Maker. Definitely do not do that in cash. Don't try to get different or try to find exposure to weird punt play players in cash. But you definitely do in the Millie Maker, because it's the only way you're going to win. And if you do win, not getting different, which I've never seen in my life, it doesn't mean it won't happen. You're going to be tied with a shit ton of people, and you're not going to win the Millie. You're just going to win like a portion of it. But, maybe 30,000. I know you'd be happy with that. But I've never seen it done. I'd rather try to tell you places to get different. Right there looks like two good-ass spots to get different, especially in Barrios. Or maybe Tua just has a good game being Tua, running the ball, making plays on the feet, hitting the tight end, getting downfield, and maybe he runs in a couple for touchdowns, and he's just good by himself. I wouldn't mind in DFS playing Tua by himself without anybody neither. He doesn't need receivers in order to get there.
Yeah. What's another game?
Another one that I wrote down was Atlanta and Detroit.
I was thinking that too, but I didn't want to go there because I feel like there's a few injury concerns in that game that I'm a little bit hesitant about. So
I haven't done like full research yet. I just did a little bit today earlier. I do see that Cordell Patterson is questionable. He might come back, but he was not a threat to like Bijan Robinson anyway.
I think it's more the Tyler Algier threat. That's the only threat that I see. And
I'm not playing him either way. I think I'm happy with Robinson if I'm gonna play anybody. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds are questionable, which is crazy because I called the Josh Reynolds play last week if anybody was watching, but for some reason, if he misses this game, it's going to be an Amon-Ra game.
From what I was reading earlier, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown in our 12-man PPR, and I have been eyes glued to the screen waiting for an injury, and he was full go on Friday. So he looks like he's probably going to play. I think he is going to play, and I feel like if it's me personally, and we're coming in tomorrow with just say you were having to play a Detroit player, obviously Josh Reynolds is going to be cheaper, 100% cheaper, right? 100% cheaper than Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I feel like their ownership projection on both of them, if they're playing, is going to be a little bit lowered with the simple fact that people are trying to get off of them because they're coming in with an injury tag, more or less.
I mean,
right?
I can add a couple things to that, right? So this is the first time you'll ever see Amon-Ra come in at like sub 10% ownership. He's coming in at 6% ownership. Like, you cannot and you do not get that. That's like seeing Justin Jefferson sub 10% ownership. Like, you're just not, you don't see that in the DFS world. So Q tag or not, I think you have to get exposure there. You have to take that.
I think you have to. He's 100%. You got to get me owned tomorrow because, and like I said, I imagine those numbers go up tomorrow for sure in the morning.
A little bit, but not much. I'm not going to double. So no.
I mean, he comes in probably 10 or so, depending on what tournament that you put him in. You know what I'm saying? I've been a Millie Maker. He's not that.
The reason that this game strikes me, the reason I like it, it's the first one I wrote down, is because in a way it is the hardest to find out who's going to get the points, but I think there are going to be a lot of points from this game. So when I say that, this game I think is going to have players in the Millie Maker, definitely one, maybe two. And when I say things like that, I mean like you have targets here. You have Khalif Raymond, you have Marvin Jones. If Josh Reynolds doesn't play, you have my guy I've been ranting about since the first podcast, Sam Laporta. You got Bijan Robinson. I mean, you got players, Drake London. You got players all over both sides of these teams, and both of them score the ball. Like, we've seen both of these teams score the ball this year. We've seen both of these teams be scored on. I think it's a good game to look at. Detroit funnels a lot of points through the pass. I can give you an exact number on that. They allowed 22 more yards above average for the pass per game. This is in
Detroit. We know what Jared Goff does in Detroit. That's stacked points.
Yeah, I think we see a shootout here, to be honest. And I think it's one of the games that's close. And with that said, that's what you want for GPP. You want games where it's going to be a shootout, because what you want to do is stack it. And you'll hear us say that too when we talk about stack. That means we'll match our quarterback with a wide receiver, a tight end, and or a running back from the same team in the same game, and then bring it back with one player or two players from the opposing team. So I'll give you a good example in this game. You start Jared Goff at quarterback, you stack him with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra, and then you bring back you bring back Drake London or Bijan Robinson, and that's your mini stack, and then you just build around it. And the reason you do that, because if the game's a shootout and Detroit's scoring, obviously Atlanta's scoring because it's shootout, you want players from Atlanta too, so you're getting all the scores, you're getting all the points. Shane, we have not talked about Taysom Hill yet. We haven't gotten to the Saints game. I mean, I could tell you in a real quick, short synopsis, I'm not taking any players from that game. I might have mentioned it to Cody pre-show, but Green Bay is one of the slowest offenses in the NFL. It's just their nature. It's just the way they play. They wait till the clock runs all the way down to like one every play, regardless if it's fourth quarter or not. They slow games down. It's what they do. It's their strategy. They're not a high-fast, high-paced offense that scores a lot. And then on the other side, Saints defense is really good. I don't think they just allowed their first touchdown like this season or some shit like that, or in 8 quarters or something last week, and it was in garbage time playing prevent defense. I trust the Saints defense. Taysom Hill, I told Cody, I think is the guy that we're probably going to utilize the most at running back, considering Jones is some doo-doo, but Cody had, let me know that, was it Kendre Miller or somebody like that?
Kendre Miller's the rookie.
Clear the go. So it's hard to figure out what's going to go on in that game, and I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all. I mean, the best case scenario, that game's like 21-17, and that's just not enough scoring. I want games that are like, in order to win the million, the game, you got to get the game that's like 35-28. Like, that's just what you got to do. We're
getting flooded with questions now.
Definitely had questions. I'm not a biased Saints fan. I think Cody also agreed with that statement.
The Taysom Hill. The only reason I'm scared of Taysom Hill tomorrow is just because the simple fact of the matter is, as a player, Taysom Hill is a tight end. Okay, if they would roster him as a running back all day, I'm thinking about him but I'm not wasting a tight end spot. I mean, you could play him as a flex, but I think there's better flex options out there than Taysom Hill. Okay, especially on a team where he doesn't really have a specific position. He comes in to get yards when they need quick yards because they don't have a power running back. He's essentially a fullback that plays tight end, can throw the ball, and all of these kinds of things. I'm not wasting a tight end spot on him because he doesn't catch passes. He might catch one pass for 10 yards. You got a whole 2 points there, right? That I'm not looking at that. I'm not looking for those kinds of things. Now, if I am in a super flex, let's put this on season long. If I'm playing super flex, even on DraftKings, a super flex, maybe. If I'm in a super flex or a 2 tight end league, or a bunch of different flex, there's lots of different leagues you can be in a season long. Hell yeah, if he's out there on the waiver wire, Taysom Hill is always going to be the hugest, biggest boom or bust candidate, depending on who else is in your league. I am probably taking a flyer.
As a Saints fan, and Cody can also vouch for this, we don't need Taysom Hill at tight end. Juwan Johnson's our guy. Like, he gets a touchdown almost every week. That man is
wide receiver. Like that.
We also brought Jimmy Graham back for whatever that's worth. It probably means nothing. He's probably never going to do shit. But, like,
it's on the field.
Just goes to show
Jimmy Graham being on the field.
Taysom Hill on the field. That's first and foremost. Second thing is, I just said it. Like, the game is going to be super slow. It's probably they got the over-under at 42, which is extremely low. I think the over-under should be 35. I don't think it passes 35 points. If Taysom Hill gets a touchdown, so be it. That's it. That's all he's going to do. If he gets one at the tight end spot or if he runs one in, that's not enough to win the Millie Maker. It's not enough to win GPP. I definitely wouldn't slot that in cash. That's a no-go. And, as Kevin Valentine said, we definitely need Kamara back. Definitely need Kamara back. I mean, it was clear that Jones was not the man to get the job done in New Orleans.
Well, and then Jamal Williams, he's on y'all put him on the injured reserve list. He's gone for at least 4 games. He won't be back till October. By that time, Alvin Kamara will be back fully entrenched as RB1 probably. Kendre Miller, y'all took a high draft pick on him. I believe he was a mid-round draft pick, to be exact. He was drafted. Hang on, he was drafted the 71st pick. So in the third round, I was right. He was high round. You're not wasting a third round pick on a running back. Out of TCU, I saw what he did last year in the national title game. The dude's worth it, right? Like, so literally, he's got that same kind of Alvin Kamara type play style. That's why you drafted him. And Kendre Miller is Tony Jones has been in New Orleans before and left. Went to Baltimore, came back. He's not the answer. Your answer is AK coming back and Kendre Miller learning to be what Alvin Kamara was coming out of Tennessee.
I think Miller will be better when Alvin is in.
Yes,
because
right.
It'll be like Ingram playing behind him. Like he'll understand better. I agree with Cody. I don't think, and like we've been saying, like even if he plays this week, he starts this week. I don't see that game being high scoring. I see it being a defensive game from the Saints or a field goal game, for what you want to call it, for points. And for that reason, I'm not focusing it in cash. Now, if there's super low ownership somewhere in there, Shane, with like Olave, which I think there will be, and Mike Thomas, go ahead and take a shot on one. Who's to say that, like, if the Saints do score 2 touchdowns, maybe it's Mike Thomas for both of them. Maybe it's Olave for both of them, and they do get you GPP, game-breaking, slate-winning tournament pride. Go ahead and definitely take that. I see Side-Eye Muppet asked about a trade offer. It's a PPR league. It's actually a tough one. I've been thinking about it this whole time that I've been talking. I like Olave and Zay, especially in PPR. I mean, Zay Flowers been getting peppered with targets. Olave gets the ball a lot. Kittle's been getting the ball. It's tough. Kirk, if you're talking about Christian Kirk,
Christian Kirk
or Kirk Cousins, I don't know. It's a big difference, but to be honest, it looks like you're only giving up a huge Kelsey for 3 good players.
Where did you draft Kelsey? If you draft him in the first round, you in your head have to feel like you're getting first round value out of that. Now, Kittle and Olave he's probably got, I think for sure he's got second round value. I mean, depending on you're in a 10-man half PPR, okay, you're looking for a catch plus a touchdown here. So Kelsey's going to come back. I think Kelsey's going to end up being the guy that's getting the touchdowns here. It's my thing is, okay, are you getting Olave? So getting the catches. So Christian Kirk is not getting the touchdowns that you would want to give up.
I wonder if it's Kirk Cousins.
If it's Christian Kirk, you're trading Zay Jones for Christian Kirk roughly. You're trading 1 for 1. So really,
is that Zay Jones or is that Zay Flowers? If that's Zay Flowers, I'm taking that trade, I think. I think you need to be a little bit more specific with us. Let us know if that's Zay Flowers, Christian Kirk, or Zay Jones and Kirk Cousins. What it is.
Flowers, because he says Lamar, Madison, Gus Edwards, Jay Jetta, Olave, Kittle, Flowers, Jets, and Matt Gay bench.
Oh, I see it up there. Yeah, I think you take that. I don't know what the Kirk is, though. They offered Kittle, Olave, and Zay.
They offered this Kittle, Olave, and Zay for Kelsey and Kirk. Well, Kittle, I would have been all over this trade probably 2 years ago or a year or so ago, and until Christian McCaffrey. Now, I do say that with the fact of the other Thursday night, Christian McCaffrey was opening it up for George Kittle, but they did not have Brandon Ayuk. Okay, so George Kittle, like I said, was getting all the touches that Brandon Ayuk did not get, and all those catches that Brandon Ayuk did not get working the middle.
It's Christian Kirk. I think I trade Kelsey and Kirk for those three. But I didn't see when your list where you have Kelsey or Kirk. So hopefully I'm reading it right. I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't give up those three. They want your three and give you Kelsey and Kirk is what I think what's being said. No, I think you keep your three and don't take Kelsey.
Who's your quarterback? Oh, your quarterback is T-Law?
It's Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, her quarterback is Lamar Jackson. I think you keep your three and you do not go into that Kelsey hype because you're essentially giving up Flowers and a great Saints wide receiver who gets peppered with targets. For Kelsey, I wouldn't do it.
I'm the only thing is where I'm still stuck on this is this being half PPR is a simple fact. If this was straight PPR, I think you're safe with Olave, Kittle, and Flowers.
Oh, it does say half PPR. I thought it just said
PPR. You're still looking for the touchdowns, and Kelsey is more of a red zone threat by himself than at least two of them.
He is. To be honest, I actually might be a good deal now that it's half PPR. It's crazy though because Kirk is just useless in PPR or half PPR. I would try to counter it. To be honest, definitely counter it for somebody else that's more likely to score a touchdown. I still think Kittle's a good touchdown threat, but Cody's right. That's been
Kevin,
because Ayuk's been injured.
Your question here that says pick one full PPR: Addison, Hollywood Brown, Drake London. I'm going if it's strictly based on what your Drake London is a number one. He's a number one in Atlanta, but I feel like those catches and touches are dominated more along the lines of where they're going to run at that moment in time. You still have more Kyle Pitts and Bijan and Tyler Algier to deal with. I personally like the Addison. I like Jordan Addison. I feel like Kirk Cousins has picked up that he is a hell of a route runner and that he's available. Now it's like 16 points per. He's like got around 16 points right now. I think I'm looking it up as we speak. He's averaging, yes, exactly 16.2 points in PPR format, and Drake London is averaging 9.4. I'm personally taking Jordan Addison all day long. I'm not even looking at Hollywood Brown because we don't know who his quarterback is going to be from one week to the next. I feel like that fluke last week. I said get off. I thought he was going to be a no-go. I was like, totally just sit him if you have the opportunity. And he kind of blew up in my face, but I still don't think I'm riding with a Josh Dobbs-led Hollywood Brown every week. I think Kirk Cousins loves the guy that works out of the slot. And when you have Justin Jefferson on the other side and Jordan Addison is working out of the slot and you have Hawkinson, they can only guard two people good at one time, especially if you're having to double at least one of them. Addison's open, I think, more times than London is, and I trust Kirk Cousins to get his receiver the ball more than I do Desmond Ridder to get Drake London the ball. So Addison.
My input on the last question, Laporta, is that saying you have Hollywood Brown? Because if that's saying Hollywood Brown, I would absolutely trade Laporta and Hollywood Brown for Goddard if you have Hurts. I've been a big shot caller of Laporta all year. Every time we've done a podcast, he's been one of my go-tos for DFS. But you have Hurts and you're looking to stack him with Goddard, that would be huge because essentially they're like the same. And Hollywood Brown is fucking useless. And
I rode that last year. I rode the Goddard Jalen Hurts stack. I felt like in week one that it was going to be a terrible idea, but I think finally Jalen figured out, okay, I got to get the ball back to Dallas because, again, we run into that same thing. You've got two elite wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Someone has to give. And 9 times out of 10, he is where he's going when Hurts is scrambling or trying to get out of the pocket. Goddard seems to be there. Now, if you have Hurts, I agree. Like Phil says, I'm going with that trade because Laporta,
Still
again,
get the same points as Goddard, but this time you have the stack. So, and Hollywood Brown is useless, so you're just like freeing up a spot
and
for you to
Drake
have like
London,
a clean waiver wire pickup or something like that. So, it's just a clean all around trade. I would definitely make that trade, and I don't play season long. I'm a DFS guy.
I mean, he's only averaging 4.1 points, right? Dallas Goedert, right? But he had last week. He had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 22 yards, so 8.2 points, right? And don't know if I'm giving up a number 1 possibility in Drake London for Goddard, but if it was me, I'd give maybe Laporta and Hollywood for Goddard and have somebody if they can throw somebody else in, I would try a low end, someone take a whiff, like just take a whiff on another player that they might have to try to at least balance it out a little bit more. But because your Laporta is your unknown, right? And your London and Hollywood floor.
It's not giving all 3, right? It's London or Hollywood. If it's just London or Hollywood, I keep London all day long, especially if it's PPR. I don't know what yours is. I know Side Eye Muppet said hers was 0.5 PPR. So London definitely is the target guy.
You see Rolling Loud highlights, traded CMC and Puka Nacua for AJ Brown, B-Rob, and Jacobs, lost Dobbin and Chubbs. Okay, Bijan Robinson or Brian Robinson, which
big difference again.
I'm not going to shit on you either way for that trade, because if you lost Dobbins and Chubbs, you're fucked one way or the other. Like that's your number 1 and your number 2. So you probably either took Chubb in first round or second, and you probably took Dobbins in the 5th, the 7th round, probably. CMC is good for 25 points a game. Puka Nacua, he is going to eventually, defenses are going to catch on to him.
PPR though. It all depends. Is he PPR? Puka is beast PPR. He's playing dog shit and half PPR. Am I having a good trade?
I'm not shitting on it at all. I'm saying if you ended up getting that haul, getting Jacobs, who is a number 1, who's going to get you touchdowns down at the red zone, regardless if the Raiders are behind or not. Okay. AJ Brown, Bijan, or Brian Robinson, I don't think it's a shitty take. So technically, you're trading a number 1 for a number 1 wide receiver and a number 1 running back in Jacobs, and depending on if that's Bijan Robinson or Brian Robinson, and that kind of leads me into another question I got via text message about Brian Robinson pertaining to daily fantasy, Phil. Okay, so Brian Robinson Jr. from Washington, averaging about 21 points. So he scored 28.6 last week, but only 13.61 in week 1. So do you think this week with the Commanders
against the Bills,
the Bills defense, if he is worth a punt type running back play? No Logan Thomas at tight end, and Curtis Samuel is questionable. We know that everyone's still stuck to the Terry McLaurin, and
probably not. I do, and I mentioned before, I talk a lot about ownership meaning more to me a lot than everything else around me. But at some point, you also have to make logical decisions as well. And if something doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Brian Robinson's a beast. I give him all the credit in the league for what he's done and overcome. But the Bills are allowing like 10 yards fewer than average per game against the run. I don't see where the Redskins get it going through the air to where Buffalo doesn't need to stack the box. I feel like Buffalo is going to realize that they got nothing going on for them and just shut down the run at some point as well, like they've been doing. And if they shut down the run, then they know they're going to pass. I just think it's a disaster for the Commanders. With that said, you could punt Robinson. He's like 5% owned tomorrow.
I mean, I have this feeling that
I think there's better punts. I think there's better punts and better games to look at, though. We just went over one, Detroit and Atlanta. There's numerous punt plays in that game because you have no idea if Reynolds is going to play. If he does play, is he on a limited snap count? That opens up like Khalif Raymond and people like that. Marvin Jones, who could be your punt play in DFS. Somebody's really cheap that could have an explosive game and shake the world. I think you punt there. I don't know if you need to punt at running back this week. If you're going to punt at running back this week, I think you can go with a chalky running back. Somebody like Madison, like we were talking about earlier in the Minnesota Vikings game, or Josh Kelly on the other side. They're both going to be cheap. They're both going to be high owned, but you can get a cheap running back. If you're looking to get a cheap running back, get another good running back. I told Cody earlier, I don't think we've gotten to this game yet, but I like Derrick Henry tomorrow. He's low owned. He's another one like Amon-Ra. I don't think you'll ever see this dude sub 10% owned, and he fucking is. It's crazy. With him being low owned and he's got a favorable run matchup, I think you could go to an elite running back that's low owned and you're not punting, and AKA you're still punting, right? You're still taking a shot on a low owned person, but they're an elite player. I think that's the better way to go. To answer that question, it looks like Alan Warfield's got a question too. Jerry Judy, who's JSN? You know who that is?
Jackson Smith-Njigba from Seattle, the rookie. Okay. Jacoby, pick 2 standard league and why? Okay. So I think tomorrow, if this is, I'm basing this specifically on tomorrow and the body of work, right? We haven't seen enough from Jackson Smith-Njigba yet for a standard league play. I personally would not play him yet because you have to compete with, in standard play, my man Phil's Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett for touchdowns. And then we all know that Coach Carroll loves to have Geno or even Russ, when he was there, get that shit to a tight end inside the 20-yard line, like a Colby Parkinson or a Will Disley or a Noah Fant, depending on which wide tight end shows up that week. So if I've got to pick 2 out of that team, I know Jerry Jeudy is possibly a number 1 or number 2 on his team. And Jacoby Myers, Josh McDaniels loves that guy. He schemes Jacoby Myers open, and despite of having probably one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league, and Jimmy Garoppolo can't get the ball down the field to Devontae Adams anyway, so you're going to have a quicker chance of probably getting a Jacoby Myers gimmick type touchdown than you are a Jackson Smith-Njigba touchdown, especially in the yardage wise, because he's going to get the ball more and eat up more yards. I just don't think Njigba is there yet. Now, come back and ask that question in a couple weeks. This is only week 3. It might be different. But for standard league, I'm looking for touchdowns and yards. That's it. Don't give a shit about how many times the running back's peppering you. I mean, the quarterback's peppering you with catches. I need yards. And I know proven that Jacoby Myers is going to get yards, and I know Jerry Jeudy is going to get at least a deep bomb down the sideline, or even some stuff across the middle that Smith-Njigba, we don't know he's getting that yet.
I mean, also, I see you said something about they give up 115% more than expected points to wide receiver position. That might be true. I don't know where you got that, but I do know that they give up almost 22 points less on average to the wide receiver position on points. So do with that with you will. It's the Redskins. The over-under is 43. Not a high-scoring game. It's not projected to be a high-scoring game. And I think the only reason it's 43 is because they think like Buffalo is going to score like 25 of those.
There's a
24.
possibility they have they're without Tre'Davious White tomorrow and without Jordan Poyer. Okay.
Do with that what you will. It's not a game I'd be looking at for DFS.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, the Commanders wide receivers is just, I feel like there's so much hype around them because of what we've seen
preseason.
Yeah, right.
Preseason,
and then Jahan Dotson. I feel like Jahan Dotson was like, he come up into the season like up here, and like we literally saw him do what we thought he was going to do. The sophomore slump just hit him. Like he was a rookie last year and he was on fire, but sophomore slump, right? And I feel like Sam Howell doesn't really give a shit about Terry McLaurin. He doesn't care about Jahan Dotson. He just wants to make plays. That kid just wants to make plays. So whoever's open is getting the ball. He's not looking for just one particular keying in on one guy like Taylor Heineke did. Heineke keyed in on Terry McLaurin, and then last year he keyed in on Dotson. So I don't feel like Sam Howell is doing that.
I mean, I agree with that. I think everybody goes high on the Redskins every time they get a new quarterback. They did it with Kirk Cousins too, and they did it with the other guy that they had. I can't think of his name right now, but it seems like they go really high and they have such high and great expectations for the Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call them, and then it just comes back down to reality. You see week one on a DFS standpoint with the tools that we have access to and the research we did, that all the Redskins players were coming in extremely high owned, and I faded them. I faded the game. I think we called for that fade on our podcast, and we were 100% right. Everybody got brought down to earth when they saw the weak-ass performance that they did. I think we continue to see that. And I think in season long, you ain't got much option. You can't just like not play your wide receivers that you have sometimes. So obviously you got to do it. But if you're talking about like DraftKings and FanDuel, you can absolutely choose to avoid that game, and I would.
Ryan, start Tua or Lawrence? Is it PPR? Is it standard? And you have a choice tomorrow. Okay, I have Trevor Lawrence in 12-man PPR. I've got to. I have a stack going with ETN and Mark Ingram. If I had someone from the Dolphins on there, PPR. Okay. So, and do you have anybody from the Dolphins or anybody from the Jags on your team other than Tua or Trevor Lawrence? If not,
this is a good question.
Phil's going to shit all over Trevor Lawrence.
This is a good question because as he knows, I always shit all over Trevor Lawrence, and I've been right every single time, just so we know. Yes. Shit all
Tyreek, over. I'm starting Tua. There's no question. There's no question there.
You're absolutely starting Tua. I wouldn't even.
You have to. That's a stack. And if Brad was here, Brad's a Jaguars fan, and Brad would tell you that you're stupid if you don't start.
That's not Tyreek Hill that you're talking about. And he always says I shit on Trevor Lawrence. It's because he sucks, and I will continue to shit on him. But we haven't gotten to that game yet, and that's the second one on my list, Cody. And I know it has a low projected ownership of 43.5, but I don't see it because your fucking CJ Stroud has been popping off. He had like 32 fantasy points.
First Ohio State, I hate it. I quarterback to throw for over 300 yards in a ball game ever. And there's been.
You're like lagging out here, Cody. There you go. You might have came back a little bit. You're back in action now. But yes, your CJ Stroud has been popping off. And if he pops off, Trevor Lawrence might fight back. And that's the games you see Trevor Lawrence do good in. When it's like a shitty team and a shitty team shitting on them, Trevor Lawrence is shitting on them right back. And it's a fucking fiasco out there on the field. And everybody's like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is so good because they won in the last 3 minutes, 51-48. And it's like, no. Did y'all forget who the fuck he was playing against and that their defense just allowed 48 points? Like, I think people like forget these things and think he's a good quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. He's dog shit. I've called it every week. I do not see what other people see in him. In fact, what I do see from Trevor Lawrence is constant overthrows to people that are wide open, constant missed targets, constant missed touchdowns, and yet he's still starting, and yet everybody thinks he's good. I don't see it. But With that said, I see something a little different tomorrow. I don't know why. It's definitely a game I'm going to have exposure to in my DraftKings lineups. I do like it from both sides. CJ Stroud has been fucking popping off. I don't get it. I don't even know why. Nico Collins been popping off. These are like these little fucking pump plays that we were talking about earlier that you can get pieces of in DraftKings and win $1 million, right? People don't play those players. They just don't, and I don't know why. But they're always low owned. You can get some good targets from the Jacksonville side and hope that that game's a shootout and goes way over the 43. I see it being a higher scoring game. I don't know where everybody else was seeing it from, but I definitely see fireworks in there. But if you have Tyreek Hill, absolutely start.
Tua, you have to. You have question. You have to run Tua. So Kittle and Saquon for Mark Andrews. You have Lamar Jackson. Okay. Did we talk about who your running back?
Saquon even come back? How many games is he missing?
I think it's like 3. I think he's going to be like 3. They said maybe 2 or 3, depending on. Right now,
if you have Lamar and Andrews, I wouldn't even entertain a trade. I know Andrews has done shit.
No, he's trading Kittle and Saquon for Andrews. He has Lamar now, or Side-Eye does.
Oh,
so if you're trying to make a stack, I have that stack also in a half PPR league. It's not working out for me right now, just because I don't think it's a different system. This is not our system from a year ago where Lamar runs first and tries to find Andrews second. This is more of an actual passing. I need to run the ball with my running backs type. Depending on whoever else your running backs are, I might make that trade. But I have not put a whole lot of stock in that actual stack. Again, if Brad was here, he has that stack and has seen it in PPR and knows what it's doing for him. I'm just not. I don't know if I'm ready to pull that trigger yet, depending on what your running back situation looks like. I need to bench one running back, non-PPR. Eckler's out. Kyron, James Cook, Brian Robinson, Josh Kelly, and also Goddard or Laporta.
I don't see that. Oh, I do see that. Okay. He needs to bench one running back. Kyron, James Cook. I'm not benching Josh Kelly tomorrow. I think you could take that off the list. I talked about him earlier. He did let everybody down last week, but I think this is the week for him. In the highest over/under game on the slate, I mean, you got to take a shot with him. I would not bench him.
I think that you're probably benching James Cook in this instance, because I think with the possibility of Joe Burrow being hurt, that game plays slower and it plays more to Sean McVay's getting the ball to the running back, even though it's non-PPR, and getting Kyron Williams touches. He is the guy now, right? Like, he's the number one. No Cam Akers to fight with touches anymore, right? So he's a number one. James Cook still has people to fight touches with, even though he's number one. He has to still fight Damian Harris and Lat Murray for touches. Lat Murray gobbled all his touchdowns last week. And Brian Robinson only has Tony Gibson to fight for touches. And I think that Coach Rivera has, and what's his name? The offensive coordinator has seen that Brian Robinson is the number one. So I think I'm benching James Cook just for the simple fact of the matter is he's got more competition for touches than what a Brian Robinson and Kyron Williams and a Josh Kelly do right at this moment in time. And then Goddard or Laporta, depends on who your quarterback is. I mean, if you have a Hurts, I'm running a Goddard. If you have a off, I'm running Laporta. Even though it's not PPR, you're still looking for touchdowns and ways to stack. But personally, I think I'm going to run with the proven quantity at this moment in time, and that's Dallas Goedert. I know Phil likes Sam Laporta, but
I do like Sam Laporta, but he has Hurts, so go Goddard all day. If that's the one who has Hurts. Back to the Buffalo thing, I was definitely looking at the stat wrong. They do allow 21 more yards per average on the pass, so you're right about that. But I still go back to the Commanders sucking. I go back to them spreading the ball too thin and being a letdown, and I go back to, it being a low-scoring game. And with that said, DFS, I'm not touching it. But season long, like if you got people like Johan Dotson and you don't got like other great people, you got to start them. It's not like an option there for you. I definitely don't see Sam Howell piecing up Buffalo. I don't see that happening. I think we can move to the next game. I don't know. The next one on my list was Chicago and Kansas City, which is the 4:00 game. I see. And when I say this game, I bring up this game for DFS purposes. A lot of y'all's questions have been season long, which is really good. It brings a lot more season long talk in here. It's usually majority DFS talk, so definitely keep the questions rolling. But at any point you have questions about DFS or season long, just keep asking them. But move on to Chicago, Kansas City. It's the second highest over-under on the slate. And for DFS purposes, you got Justin Fields coming in at extremely low ownership, and we as DFS players saw what he did last year. He was in the optimal milli maker maybe like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and he was in it like 4 or 5 times, like even running him what we call naked without any receivers paired with him because he was doing everything with passing, running in touchdowns. A big time play tomorrow. I think I'm gonna get definitely over the field exposure to him in DraftKings because I do see that game being like sneaky for lots of scoring. This is like a game where I think I want to say Kelsey's gonna be like not coming in with a Q tag and being all mustered up, open up that Kansas City offense to what we're used to seeing, and then Justin Fields just trying to play keep up and doing what he does best, moving the ball around the field. Plus, don't they have like DJ Moore now? So, I mean, you don't even have to run them naked. You could run them with DJ Moore and be happy at with that play all around. And running back with somebody like Kelsey, so you have like a nice little mini stack going there with a potential high shootout game.
Somebody that I'm intrigued about tomorrow is Roschon Johnson, the running back for the Bears. He's projected for, and this is season long purposes, around 8.5 points tomorrow. That's if you're trying to get super sneaky, especially in the 425 window tomorrow. If you're trying to get there, I don't see him as if he's not coming in terribly high owned. I mean, it's what a whole
main slate super low owned. I mean, less than 1%. I don't know nothing about him though. Is he gonna take this job from Khalil Herbert or what?
I think he's a rookie. So his ownership in the season long leagues went up about 4.5% just for the simple fact of the kind of they're talking there. We've seen the Bears are one of those teams like, okay, what's not working? We need to do something, and they're bad about just shifting running backs, right? So he's been brought in. He was brought in, and people drafted him and everything. So I think that he could be one of those guys that we see get some work tomorrow. And he's
going to be a catching back or what?
He's kind of a do everything kind of guy, right? So he's a 3 down type guy. So we're not. I don't think that depending on if they get fed up with Khalil Herbert early, I could see Johnson taking some touches away or if this is especially if this is something that we can see, this is a runaway. If Kansas City just comes out and just chunks up the deuces on the Bears, they got to figure out some other way to get somebody else.
Has he been playing this year so far? Has he been doing good?
He has. So in week 1, he had 5 attempts for 20 yards and a touchdown against Green Bay. 17.5 points. This is league fantasy, right? And you can, and he had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 35 yards. This is in week 1. In week 2, 4 attempts for 32 yards with no touchdowns, and then 2 receptions on 2 targets for 10 yards. So he does it all, right? He does both. And like I said, he's kind of getting there. He's kind of getting in there and biting at the heels of Khalil Herbert. And Khalil Herbert's just like sitting there like, what do I do? Like, is he going to be the next just big flop in Chicago, right? So
yeah, I mean, where I see it now, he was on the field 41% of the snaps last week.
Yeah,
and he ran
almost a 50-50 share.
Yeah, he ran 25% of them and caught 7% of them. So that, like, basically when he's on the field, he's getting the ball. Essentially, that was a total of 32% out of the 41% he's on the field. So he was only on there a couple times to block or, just be out there. So that's,
and like I said, there's only 3 games in the afternoon window tomorrow because they double up again on Monday. So if you're looking for a cheap running back, right? And I'm sure, like I said, he's probably going to be high owned in the afternoon window, especially by himself. But
I don't even see him being high owned, dude. Like, he's sub 1% on the main slate. He's like 0.6. So you talk afternoon only, it's going to go up maybe.
It's going to be a Tony. I mean, I'm going to say the high owned is Tyler. Is going to be a Tony Pollard, James Conner.
Oh, yeah. Tony Pollard's already the highest owned on the whole main slate.
Kenneth Walker, and then Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard show there in Carolina, which your boy Andy Dalton getting one more start, man. No Bryce Young tomorrow for a couple weeks possibly. So your man, the Red Rifle, back in the saddle, baby.
Man, that's gross.
Yeah,
I mean, I think since I like this game for the main slate, I think I'm going to like it for the afternoon only slate as well. And I think you're going to need that playmaker you were just talking about, because before you said that, I definitely wasn't going there. I wasn't even thinking about him. So I don't really have too much interest in the Seattle Carolina game.
In Kansas City is up in flux again. Like your possible no Kadarius Toney. I mean He's a toe injury. He's questionable tomorrow. Richie James. So that leaves you. I mean, Justin Watson was full go on Friday, but it leaves you a Justin Watson, a Rashee Rice, Sky Moore. My man.
Yeah, I mean, I see that Tony's expected to play. You have him being out or like
it says questionable. It says questionable right now.
Yeah, him and Pacheco are questionable. But yeah, definitely Richie James is definitely out.
Pacheco's a hamstring, so that's another scary soft tissue injury we've seen.
Yeah, I'm not touching anybody's questionable with those type of injuries. If somebody's questionable because of like concussion protocol, I'm playing them all day long because that's just like being cleared from a doctor. That's not like a possibility of another tissue problem where you literally are playing at half capacity and then maybe going out the game or being limited on snaps because you're feeling it or you're not playing to your potential and them just sitting you. And then DFS, that's killer. Like, you got this lineup, it's doing fucking great, and you're like, oh, I need this person to score. And then you look, and he's fucking sitting on the bench because he's hurt. Because he came in the game hurt, and he decided to play, and now he re-injured himself, and he realized he couldn't do it. So I hate those soft tissue ones. I think we can move to Cowboys-Cardinals. There's tons of fucking Cowboys fans. Mentioned a little bit, Tony Pollard is coming in at the highest owned running back of the entire slate at 19.34%. Hard to say if I'll have any of him because of that. I know he's in a good ass spot, but that's tough to call. What do you think?
I mean, Tony Pollard is going to get touches. I mean, there's no Carlos Watkins, no Josh Woods, linebacker, and then Leaky Fotu, their defensive tackle. I mean, that's 3 dudes that are injured out of the front 7. 2 of them are out for sure, right? Like, and so Tony Pollard's going to get work. But I just don't know if this is the same. I just don't know if it's a Tony Pollard. If it's a Tony Pollard that we've seen in the past, like I literally just don't know if I'm wasting that much money on a Tony Pollard tomorrow, just for the simple fact of the matter, it's probably going to be high owned. I mean, if you're doing a cash only in the afternoon, I mean, I'm sure he's probably going to be somebody you got to play, right?
I mean,
Cash,
number
right?
one, you have to play him in cash. I think you still have to play him in cash main slate because of his ownership. But don't sleep on Arizona's run defense. They're not like horrible against the run. They like allow a lot fewer yards.
He had 19. He had 19.9. He had 19.9 points against the Jets' run defense, right? Which was a good run defense. It's not a terrible run defense. It's literally not. But
yeah, but he's 8,000 tomorrow. So this will go into another little talk we always talk about is value and points per dollar that players have to get in DFS for like DraftKings.
He hasn't hit that yet. 20-something points.
He costs 8,000, right? If you're gonna play him in a GPP tournament that we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, a guaranteed prize pool tournament with lots of people in it, he's high owned, which is one reason why you shouldn't do it. But if you're like, fuck that, I gotta play him, I'm playing him. You need to know that he's 8,000. He needs to get you 4 to 5x his value in order to be worth it in your lineup, in order for you to win the Millie Maker. So if he's 8,000, he probably needs you at minimal 32 points, but he probably needs to get you somewhere around 35 to like 40 points. And as Cody just said, he got like 19 against the Jets. I mean, he's probably good for 19 or 20. That's perfectly fine for cash. Is he going to get you 32 to 40? I would say there's like a 1% chance he does that.
And what's scary even more is I've saw more of this Deuce Vaughn coming in behind him last week. There was a lot, and I feel like Mike McCarthy is a guy that rides the hot hand. He's not loyal to one running back. We saw this even when Kellen Moore was calling the plays there in Dallas, and he had Zeke as an entrenched number 1 for a couple years there, right? He would ride Tony Pollard's hot hand because he was going down the field. If Tony Pollard comes in, breaks up a couple runs, pats himself on the head and says, hey, man, I need to swap out for a little bit, and Deuce Vaughn comes in and runs in a 12 or 15-yard touchdown, Deuce Vaughn's coming out in the next series as RB, as a running back. Tony Pollard's not. It's just that it feels like, well, that's what Mike McCarthy does. He rides the hot hand at running back, and Dak Prescott doesn't really care who's playing running back. And
consider the game being a blowout. If Dallas is up by a lot, they probably run Deuce Vaughn more to preserve Pollard, make sure he's not getting injured or risk of injury. And run this guy, and also see what this guy's got. Right? Let's see what he's got, and let's put him out there for more of the runs as if he's starting and see what he's got. I mean, I think that's I was just already thinking of like a super fucking crazy way to get different on the afternoon only slate, and I think it's making both your running backs, Deuce Vaughn and the other guy from Chicago we were just talking about.
Deuce Vaughn, or even
people will be like, who the fuck does that? Like, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to play 2 sub-own 5% running
They got
backs
another running back there, too, that's eating up some carries and stuff, too. I mean, Rico Dowdle he's eating up carries, too. So, literally, it's set, he went 26 yards on 7 attempts last week, right? And that,
I see him and like coming in higher than Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, so it's basically Deuce Vaughn is 3rd, right? And Rico Dowdle is 2nd. But like I said, I saw them riding the high hand, which was Deuce Vaughn, who was carrying the ball down the field. And it could have been, like you said, it was kind of a blowout, right? But this another one of those games where, okay, well, let's get Tony Pollard his work. Let's get his passes, get him a touchdown, and then he's out of here. We got 2 running backs who are quite capable to carry the load the rest of the way. And I do not think 35 points, you're not getting that with a Tony Pollard. I just don't see that.
You're not getting that, and you're not – and also, like I said, he's coming in at the highest owned running back. even if he does get it, you're not different than anybody else that's doing
Yes.
it. So you're gonna need to get different somewhere else. And I'd rather just play Pollard and cash. And if he shits the bed, we all shit the bed in
Yes.
cash, and I still have a chance at winning rather than playing him in GPP. And if he shits the bed, I'm absolutely fucked. Besides, I think there's only been like once, maybe twice, where he's gotten 40 points in a game, and that's just not. They got him priced way too fucking high. And I agree with Cody. If they're gonna be blowing teams out and giving these backup running backs more opportunities to carry the ball, then that definitely continues to hurt him.
Yes, 100%. That hurts all across the board.
Plus, it's projected to be a low-scoring game. This is what I keep talking about all day, and I'm gonna keep preaching it. If games are projected to be low-scoring, obviously they can be high-scoring, right? We've seen games that are projected to be high-scoring that are low-scoring. We've seen games that are low-scoring that end up being high-scoring. It happens, but we have to ride Vegas for what they know, and Vegas knows more than we know, and because of that, we have to play to what they think is going to happen. And if we do that, we got to play that game's going to be low scoring. And if that game's going to be low scoring, I mean, it could be Dallas like 35-0, right? And it'd still be a blowout for Dallas, but at the same time, it's not good for fantasy because who did those points go to? Probably some to the defense of Dallas, probably some. Maybe one to Pollard, maybe one to CeeDee Lamb. They spread the ball around. Gallup could get one. If Brandon Cooks is in, I don't even know. He could steal one. Like, it's spread too thin. And if that happens, it's not something that's going to help you in DFS. So that's why, earlier on, I named the games that intrigued me the most. It's Atlanta and Detroit, Houston and Jacksonville, Denver and Miami, Chargers and Minnesota, Chicago and Kansas City. I think if you avoid the other games, you'll be fine. I would, temper your expectations on Tyreek Hill tomorrow, though, with Jalen Waddle out. I think they just plan to prepare to shut Tyreek Hill down or keep him at a small gain per catch. Don't be expecting a whole lot out of him for DFS. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, unless there's another game somebody wants us to talk about. I don't think we talked about the Baltimore Colts game. I know Deion Jackson was released for the Colts, and Anthony Richardson's not playing. Gardner Minshew, I think, coming in. We've seen him fucking air it out and have great success, but I don't think Baltimore is a team that he's going to be able to do that on. I'm not looking to go anywhere there. I think it's not a bad play to go there with some people. I wouldn't go there with Zach Moss because he's the second highest owned running back now that Deion Jackson is gone. But if you're going to go anywhere, maybe it's Minshew and a receiver. Maybe Zay Flowers with Minshew might be a good play. Not sure, but it could happen with Minshew back there. We saw Anthony Richardson, but he was chopping it up mainly because of his feet. Minshew's not do that, so
yeah. You have a Pistorio Law Firm Lock of the Week?
Oh, man, I haven't even thought of this. I know I nailed it the last 2 weeks. I don't want to pick somebody that's like fucking chalky like Justin Jefferson because, that's easy. I think what I'm going to do is take man, this is tough. I haven't even thought of like who I absolutely love tomorrow. I think who I'm going to go with. Well, I'll give a running back as Derrick Henry. He's low owned, and y'all are going to make, it's like Justin Jefferson. It's fucking Derrick Henry. Correct. But he's low owned. For that reason, I'll take him as running back. But for wide receiver, my lock of the week, can I do it? I don't even know, man. It might be Nico Collins, dude. I might have to go Nico Collins. I know you might like to hear that.
I'm still fighting with my internal. I have it down if I'm going to run Nico Collins or Michael Pittman tomorrow. So I haven't. I've been throwing him up like in league fantasy back and forth. I mean, Pittman is projected a little bit more going against a beat up Baltimore team, but I'm not sure if Gardner Minshew is gonna do it or not. But Nico Collins is in trench 90, the number one. I do know, like I said, in there's really nobody else that's touching anywhere amount of the ball as many times as he is. Hell, our running back Dame Pierce is not even getting the ball that much. And either
Robert
other
Woods is getting it a lot too, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. People are sleeping on Houston for fantasy.
My man, Robert Woods. Shout out to Robert Woods. He's a great guy. Bumped into him. He's a great guy. So,
I mean, y'all are definitely putting up fantasy numbers. That's the shit I like to see. I mean, and then other than that, I look for ownership. We talked about
nobody's going to be on the game for sure. I think Nico Collins. I mean, his ownership could be a little bit higher than what you expected just because of what he's done over the last couple of weeks. But I think he's probably. I mean, I was on him last week. So I called him last week. So I like that. I like the Nico Collins play.
Yeah, I like Nico Collins. I'll definitely make him my lock of the week. I hadn't thought about it. It's on the spot. If he shits the bed for y'all, I'm sorry. But so far I've been right on my calls. For the most part, I think I had a couple wrong here and there as well that I won't take credit for. But for the most part, we have been spot on this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Moving forward, I can try to give you a tight end that I like. I mean, I always like Sam Laporta, dude. I feel like I've given you him every week. I might even go back to him again in this game against Atlanta as a solid tight end that you could lock in and expect to do good for you.
So with that being said, I know we can kind of jump to with Brad being out. He did leave us his BKeele 3-pack of the week. So he went at quarterback, going back to where we started earlier with the questions. Tua against Denver's defense against. I mean that Tua connection with anybody out of in Miami is a great connection. He's gonna spread the ball around. Mike McDaniel is gonna put him in the best opportunity that he can to get the ball to his playmakers. I mean, I believe that their offensive line is, I think it's top tier, right? I do see the Commanders' defensive line as a little bit of a threat, just on the edge, more or less, with like a Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But I don't think, or not the Commanders. My fault. The Broncos, right? So it's going to be the secondary is what I was thinking about. The secondary with Pat Surtain and Justin Simmons is beat up. So there you go. And you have Randy Gregory on the edge. So I think still Tua play action, run the ball, get the ball to his playmakers down the field. So I like the Tua play. And then at running back, Kyron Williams against Cincinnati, kind of like what I said earlier. Kyron Williams is going to get touches. He's number one entrenched there in LA now. Sean McVay is kind of finding his mojo again to get his running back in. I think he's got this Cam Akers experiment is gone and past him. So he's moving forward with the Kyron Williams, and with Joe Burrow possibly banged up and this, like I said, this game being slow, I think it plays into the Rams' hand, and the Kyron Williams show takes over, especially even in a standard league. I'm riding Kyron Williams in a PPR for sure because he gets catches out the backfield. And then third is Stephon Diggs against that Commanders defense. So
Brad thinking like me. Buffalo gonna whoop that ass.
I think it's going to be it could be a runaway, but we've seen Josh Allen have those oh crap type games, oh shit type games, and he's like, what happened to me? I don't know if we've talked about it. The Madden curse is getting to him this year. It just doesn't seem like he's the same Josh Allen, or if this is just kind of he's gone into this kind of regression a little bit since when Brian Daboll left as his offensive coordinator, went to be the Giants head coach, which I feel like at this point now, I mean, another man's getting paid, but he's like, what have I done? I left Josh Allen to come play with Danny dime bag of dog shit. So I just don't know, but we've seen a little bit of a regression, but I think that we kind of get on the track, and Josh Allen finds Diggs ready and steady on tomorrow. So I think that's Brad's 3-pack of the week. Some last minute waiver wire pickups. I'm gonna go back to Gonna go back to Phil's Saints. I think you gotta if a Kendre Miller is out there, you have to roster him at least going forward. I know that Kamara is eligible to come back next week. No Jamal Williams, and you have the Tony Jones Jr. effect. I just don't think Tony Jones is it. I think he just was there at that moment in time, and you're beating up already at that point on a defenseless Carolina team that's just they're having growing pains. So that's who I'm grabbing off the waiver wire. Tank Dell, a Texans receiver rookie. He got work too. So you're going back to kind of Phil's. If you're getting different tomorrow, that's a Texans receiver that's to get different with, even in league fantasy. He's a stash play, I think, probably, because
I think there's a lot of people in that game and a lot of people in the Detroit Atlanta game where you can get different and have potential at some great scoring opportunities on both sides.
Yes, sir. I'm kind of intrigued to see with Monty more than likely not going to play tomorrow, what kind of work we're going to give Gibbs, that Detroit's going to give Jahmyr Gibbs, and if we're going to see how much we're going to see Craig Reynolds, the third running back for Detroit. I want to know. I want to see what they decide to give, what kind of workload they want to give Gibbs. If they're going to just give him just a full-fledged, let's go. You getting it all the work. We drafted you in the first round. We're going to give you first round running back work tomorrow.
And we've seen Detroit do that before. I think when like Swift went down or something, everybody expected Jamal. And this is before Jamal Williams had his pop-off season, but they expected Jamal Williams to pop off, and he was like still splitting the backfield with somebody else, and it was just a shit show. And it's like, are they gonna let Jahmyr Gibbs loose and run this backfield by himself, or are they gonna pepper in some fucking random and fuck up our fantasy day?
Yeah, I mean that Craig Reynolds kid in league fantasy, he was picked up quite a bit on the waiver wire when the news broke that Monty was more than likely doubtful. He went from being rostered 0.6% to 12% rostered across all leagues. So that's a significant amount. I mean, and I know in all my leagues he's there. He's not available right now, but that means that's people listening to these professional analysts saying, "Hey, you need to pick up Craig Reynolds and put him on your roster," because we don't really know what the David Montgomery situation is going to be. So,
I mean, you got people like fucking Miles Sanders coming in at higher owned than Jahmyr Gibbs too. So, it might be a good solid ass play for DFS purposes tomorrow as well to roster Gibbs. And like I said, I think that game's got sneaky blowout potential. If he gets the bulk of the work and all the work, he could get the pass catching and the running and, open the slate wide open.
Yeah.
Or we call it breaking the slate.
Yes. Breaking the slate. Slate breakers.
I mean, I think that might be it. I mean, if anybody's got any more questions, feel free to ask them. We have a Facebook group. If you don't have any now and you come up with some later, feel free to join the Facebook group. Talk about fantasy in there, any of your trades, your waiver wires, any of your DFS plays. If you want to submit a lineup,
it's in the top of the comments up here. So
top of the comments, he posted it. You can click that. Feel free to join. Like I said, post a lineup, post your team. Whatever you need help with or have questions on or just other input. I mean, we're not always right, but so far we've been killing it. I've already taken down first in a tournament this year. We had a friend of mine almost win the $1 million on FanDuel last week after watching the podcast. He shouted us out and all. So, I mean, there's definitely some potential and great information being discussed here, so we can all come together
25.
collectively.
I went 25 for 25 on cash plays on Thursday night against the Christian McCaffrey show. So the cash plays were out there. So yeah,
we've been killing it on cash. I think it's only just like one time I've missed on cash, but other than that, like I'm probably played like 300 or 400 heads ups, and I've probably only lost a combined total of 20 of them.
Oh, something I was thinking about when you were talking about heads up earlier that some people might see tomorrow is heads up. Don't play particularly like a single entry double up does. So it's not, you won't, if you played a $1 heads up and one, it doesn't play $2.
Oh yeah, it doesn't actually double your money up. It's like they take a little juice, a little
$1.80. So it's like they take a portion out. I don't know why DraftKings does this. It's the weirdest thing ever, but they take like a 20-cent cut out of
it. Yeah, they take a rake, in other words, out of it. The double ups do not, but you know, it's easy money down there in the $1 double ups, especially if you're mass entering them like we do. Easy money. Easy double ups every week.
And if you have DraftKings or FanDuel, pay attention to the announcements and the achievements. I know this is kind of like DK FanDuel 101. Pay attention to those type things, and you can maximize the way that you're winning that way, because if you're doing the achievements clicking the achievement every week, right, or every day that you play, pay a $1 entry in today and you'll get 5 crowns or whatever. So crowns is DraftKings currency that you can use to enter tournaments with, and basically it's a way to play for free. And then so many earning throughout a year, you get a tier status, and then they kind of give you options to use those crowns to pay in higher base contests. And then there's always promotions to, if you play in a $5 here, you get a $3 ticket next week, or this, that, and the other. So just pay attention to those announcements that they send you. And then in FanDuel, they're bad about just sending you, hey, we haven't heard from you this week. Here's a free one on us playing this free GP kabillion people in it.
There's also like sign-up bonuses and referral bonuses. So if y'all are not using DraftKings or FanDuel for like ever, and you looking to get into it based on conversations you hear in here, you can hit me or Cody up in the group and ask for a referral link. And I think you get bonus money if you use our referral code. So definitely shout us out before you sign up if you haven't already.
Yeah, those are good ways to and I also been told a few people had some prize picks over under type questions. If you have those, bring them in here. We'll do our best to
we do prize picks too.
Yeah, we play prize picks. We are really partial to the Friday protected flex play, $20 flex. That's a good promotion that they run. They run protected picks here and there also, so we run those too.
Free money. It's literally
we want
every
it's like
Friday.
We want to make money work for you, so that's the best way. We also play, if you're a phone gamer and you're sitting around in your office, you're sitting around with the kids, FanDuel Face Off. Yeah, so if you do those kinds of things too, like those are good ways to add money to your
I'll put it this way. I told Cody the other day I have over $100 in my FanDuel account I've never deposited on there in like the last 3 years, and it's because I play FanDuel Face Off. It's like a side app they have with like mini games, it's like a Tetris type game, a golf type game, and you can play for money. But the good thing about them is they always give rewards that you don't need to deposit. So like as soon as you download it, it'll say like play one of every type of game, and they give you like $5 real money to use. And then there's like other promotions. It's like play 3 of any kind of game you want and get $3, and you do that, and you just
like this one they just ran was play 4 golf games and get a $4 free. So you play like a 60-cent game, play 4 of those, it's $2.40, and then they give you $4. So you profit no matter what, $1.60, and then if you win those, it's $1.05. So you profit 45 off of every game. So you won 4 of them. So there you go. So you're profiting here. And it maybe sound like nickels and dimes, but in the long run, you can use those nickels and dimes.
Keep playing.
$5 20 max entries or 150 max entries in the FanDuel actual fantasy.
Make money.
Sports. Yes, and make the big money. Yes.
Yeah, so hit us up about any of that. I mean, we don't get nothing out of that, but I can definitely show you how to get some free money on your draft. On your
we just got some new comments. Hang on.
Yeah, we got a question from WKeele. Pick one: Connor, Swift, or Gus. They're all shit. Connor, James Conner, it's my pick. Gus Edwards is
listen,
shit.
let me tell you this.
I think it's between Connor and Swift.
Yeah, so I personally, Connor's is a number one, right? Swift should be a number one, but in the back of my mind, he's never gonna be a number one on the Philly team. I don't care what he did last week. You fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, shame on me, kind of thing. And I'm not touching Gus Bus with a 20-foot pole, just for the simple fact of the matter is I can't depend on that man to be here. Like I can't.
Now,
I feel like that Ravens backfield is cursed.
Who did the Eagles play this week? Buccaneers. I
Yes.
wonder if it's a question just for like this week's slate. You might want to run Swift on this slate rather than James Conner. Who's Arizona playing against Dallas? Yeah. If you're talking about this slate, I would definitely probably run Swift.
If you
Stop. That's actually a good question. Besides Gus Edwards, that dude's some doo-doo.
yeah, Gus Edwards, I'm full fading Gus Edwards, but
Minnesota's good against the run, I think, is what I mean. Not Minnesota. Tampa Bay is good against the run, and Dallas is going to be good against the run. They both don't have favorable matchups. Is Swift starting this week? Is that what's going to happen?
Gainwell back. Hang on, I can tell you.
Oh, I don't even know if he's starting. I mean, that's a tough one. I think you're.
Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell is still technically questionable. They did open the Pandora's box with Penny last week after Boston Scott went down. Boston Scott is out, but you're competing for carries there and catches. Like I said, I'm totally afraid of DeAndre Swift. I think I need one more game to show me that they fully committed, that the Eagles are fully committed to Swift as a number one, and that they're not gonna just feed people like they have done in the past. I don't think they've had a number one running back in Philly since Shady McCoy was there. But yeah, I think I'm running James Conner because I just don't feel like he has any competition for carries for sure.
Correct. And Dallas does have a good defense, but it's an afternoon-only game. I mean, it's an afternoon game. One of these afternoon slates, you always see some weird shit. Definitely some shit that you're not used to seeing. So you could definitely see Connor break loose on them, and it would not shock me because it's an afternoon game. Definitely go with Connor this week.
I think that's a good play there, yeah. Kevin said, I got dog water internet. It's not the internet, man. I got high in internet. It's just, I don't know, something about it. Every time and about this time in the middle of the stream, it decides to lag out. I think I need to just start handing me some money. And
that's another good question. We have another good question. You know, the Pistorio Law Firm Lock of the week is Nico Collins. So you think I'm going to stay there with that one, but I do like the DJ Moore play. I talked about that game earlier where I think it has sneaky high potential for Justin Fields to pop off, and if he's doing it, there's a possibility that DJ Moore is doing it with him. Is this
a league question or is this a DFS question now? Because I I could go elsewhere with this. If this is a league question in like a PPR or a standard league, I think I like the Nico Collins play. I do personally because I'm personally invested in that one. But I have DJ Moore also, and I set DJ Moore. Well,
Yeah.
I just don't feel like he's going to get. I just don't trust Justin Fields.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why he's a sneaky
trust-
potential play. He's
I don't
either
trust
boom or bust. Full
And,
PPR.
I mean, I feel like they should. They don't, and Chicago hasn't figured out that how they should use him. Full PPR.
Nico's
a number one. DJ's a number one, but he doesn't have a number one quarterback. Like he's got a run first quarterback, like or a dude that's running for his life 90% of the time. Now, I do say that with the thought here in Houston, our offensive line is dog doo-doo. We are dead. Our offensive line is dead. So like we're gonna have to throw the ball. Like we're literally gonna have to throw the ball. So
and that's why he's getting so many fucking points because he's fucking airing it out. CJ Stroud's airing it out.
No Laramie Tunsil, no Titus Howard, no Kenyon Green. Like we don't have anybody. No Juice Scruggs.
And I like Lockett, but I think Lockett is in direct competition with DK Metcalf, and it's
you have anybody which stack? Are you running a Geno Smith? If you're running a Geno Smith, I might run it back.
Geno, running with Lockett. If not, Nico all day. DJ, I mean, don't be surprised if DJ Moore pops off tomorrow.
I have him on Ross St. Brown. He's got a questionable tag. I'm going to pay attention to his injury report in the morning.
I like Amon-Ra too. So.
If Amon-Ra is hurt, if Amon-Ra is out, I'm running a Nico Collins tomorrow. So I still think that Nico Collins is the play out of those three.
Yeah, Nico for sure. He put up big shit last week too when Cody called him. I even locked him into my girlfriend's lineup, and she had like the best lineup for winning the Millie Maker last week on FanDuel until fucking Anthony Richardson gets hurt, and it kind of shot her fucking lineup. Yeah, Waddle's out. I definitely see why you have the question. I take Nico here. Lockett is not in a high shootout type game. And in fact, I think history, I haven't looked this up, but if I remember correctly, Carolina and Seattle play very fucking tight football with each other, and it's always like super low scoring games, like 13-10 type fucking craziness games. If I remember.
Well, and again, we're this is no Bryce Young tomorrow. We're back on Andy Dalton football in Carolina.
Correct.
So I mean, Seattle has a tendency to play down to their competition, and they're going to play down to Carolina tomorrow. And I feel like it's going to be a lot of Kenneth Walker tomorrow.
It's going to be slow for sure. I think every time they play each other, it's fucking slow. I think DJ Moore him and Nico have the highest upside tomorrow. And because Nico's a number one who has been eating, I think he's the safer play.
I mean,
for season long.
He's CJ. CJ looks for him first. That's just it. Like literally, we thought he was going to look for tight ends first. He was going to look for Robert Woods as a veteran out of the slot type first. No, it's Nico Collins. Big body, big target. He's used to throwing the guys that are big bodies and big targets, and Ohio State. And
I think he's a safer play.
So I think that he's probably your best bet.
Yes, sir. I mean, if you're talking the same options for DraftKings, Nico or DJ, same too is where I'd be going with it. DJ probably is lower ownership, or definitely has lower ownership, and has a boomer bust potential. And Nico.
The thing about DJ Moore, and I could give you this a thought on DFS with DJ Moore, he has the potential, and he's not. I don't think he's in the qualification as a punt play because we know we've seen him go off before. He's not a punt play guy, but tomorrow he's kind of a punt play guy. With the fact of the matter that he has the ability, we've seen it, we saw it in Carolina, to run these like jet sweep type plays. If Chicago would ever get their stuff together and figure out how to use him properly, but he has that potential to take a run or two or take a deep bomb. It just really depends on the play of the fields.
And he's 2% owned. I don't think we ever seen DJ Moore at 2% owned. I believe like last year it was like he was like a $7,000 player that was high owned.
Yeah, he had that one game that he blew up, and then I think his ownership was probably like 10% at that point, and then after that it was
like 30, 40, 50%.
Yeah, he was pretty high every week.
And his price was going up. He was like a 6,000 receiver, and next thing you know, he was 8,000 receiver.
Yeah, he was top 6 or 7.
Now he's 700. He's 2% owned. I think he is super boomer bust potential tomorrow. Make somebody $1 million for sure.
Well, I don't think there's any more questions. So, you guys got more questions? Hit us up in the Facebook or leave the questions in the comment, and we'll get it right back to you. We will be back on Wednesday. We drop shorts all the time, so if there's something that you think that that'll be an awesome short or something like that, let us know, and we have some cool stuff coming for you guys soon that we're working on that we'll think you guys will be super excited about, and we'll keep that kind of under wraps, but let y'all see it in the coming weeks. So let us know, hit us up, Facebook, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Peace.